The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today. RTT and Some Studios presents Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash on Saturday, February 22nd at Faces Brewing Company, Malden, Massachusetts, featuring live music from KCUF. With special guests Megan from Work and MK Naomi. Be sure to be at Faces Brewing Company in Malden, Mass, Saturday, February 22nd for Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash. Doors at 8 p.m., $10 cover.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is Paul, Brian, and James of the Boston hardcore band The Promise End. They are here today to talk about their new single, A Long Shadow, out now. YouTube, Spotify, Bandcamp. Go pick it up. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear the song here on the Struggling Artist Podcast. This is episode 325 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with The Promise End. Paul, you and I have been talking about doing this for a minute.
I feel like it's been about a year.
Yeah, I know. It's just
record came out.
Life has been busy and everything else. You guys were busy, right? Didn't you guys just go on a European tour recently?
Yeah, we did. We were there end of September into the beginning of August.
How was it? How'd it go?
It was amazing. We're actually going back there November 7th through the 22nd to do 16 shows again.
Right on. Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, we hooked up with, the label that co-released the record, Gunner Records, they booked some of that tour, but we were able to hook up with like a booking agency over there called City Rat that does some pretty good work, and I believe they do a few Boston bands, mostly like a street punk promotion and booking company. But we hit it off really well with Stefan, who's one of the owner-operators of that agency, and he wanted to have us back, so we began booking that pretty much immediately after we came back home again.
That's awesome. What was your guys' experience over there? Like I know from talking to other bands, it's just better over there for traveling musicians than it is here in the States. One, because everything's kind of condensed. Two, everyone seems to go out and they appreciate the arts more than we do here in the United States. So, like, what was your guys' experience over there?
Honestly, just the hospitality. Like you said, like people they really, really enjoy it and they don't take it for granted. You know, people coming through and playing music for them, and they want to hang out. They want to know your story. They want to know where you're from. They want to know all about you. It's great. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They treat you very well. They treat you very, very well over there.
Yeah, I always tell people the starkest difference is like you play a show in America and you can negotiate whatever, at the level that we're at. We're pretty deeply underground band, but we can still get around. You know, you get 2 beer tickets and a slice of pizza each or something. You go to Europe, it's like you load in at 4, there's snacks, and then you sound check, and there's endless supplies of beer and spring water, and then you play your show, and then they feed you dinner, and then you leave your gear there. And the next morning, you either like wake up in the dormitory they have in the venue or whatever accommodations they put you up in. You go back and they feed you breakfast and help you load the van up in the morning before you head out. So it couldn't be more different.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I always think about like what it would be like if it was like that here. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's people here, right? There's people here that run venues that do great things like that. But like, for the majority of it, like, and there's also this thing of like, just for like the consumer of you know what I mean, like the people who listen to music, like, well, I'll catch them the next time they're in town. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that where over there, I just feel like they're gonna catch you every time you're in town. You know?
Yeah. They have a more realistic view of how the world shakes out. It's like, yeah, I'll catch that band the next time they're here, unless their singer ODs or they die in a van accident.
Yeah,
or like,
right. Yeah.
You know, it's like all of this is temporary, right? So you have to take advantage of it when it's existing. You know, it's
Right
like
on.
it's like with like a venue that becomes like a legendary venue. You know, something like the Rat or something like that we used to have in Boston. It's like we used to go every Sunday because it's like, how this might not be here in the future. Let's take advantage of this and soak it all up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that too. Yeah. I think, I don't know, like, because like there was a long time where I didn't go to shows, and I don't know why. Subconsciously, I think I had some shit going on in my brain and everything else, and like I try to go to as many shows as I can now. But it took COVID for that to happen to me. Like it took me not being able to go if I wanted to be like, I need to start going to more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it was a little death, wasn't it, for everybody to experience?
Yeah, I think so. But I also think like I don't know, man. I don't know what the culture is if people are really just not going out at all anymore. Like I see it with restaurants. Like I don't see people like sitting at the bars anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's just overall, it's just a weird thing going on. And I don't know how to kind of handle it. So for me, like I don't know. It was like 2021 when I kind of thought of this thing, and maybe that's why, but like I didn't go to shows for like from like 2011 to basically till they opened things up again in 2021, at the end of 2021. And like it wasn't for like I would always find a reason not to go. But I think part of it too was like so we remember the Station nightclub fire, right? Like I had tickets to that show, and like my roommate and I were leaving. We stopped to get dinner, and we got fucking drunk and couldn't drive, and we didn't go to that show. Wow. Like so, like there's this little bit of that. I think that subconsciously like always kept me from going back out, but like you know, like that, like I don't know. It was just something weird for me for a while, and like I felt weird like feeling that way because like I didn't go. You know what I mean? So like it was just a strange thing for me for a long time, but.
Survivor's guilt, huh?
Something. I guess. It's just the whole thing was just, you know. And I'm from Rhode Island, so like everyone in Rhode Island somehow was connected to that thing, whether they knew somebody or they were there or there was some. You know what I mean? It's weird. It was just a weird thing, and terrible thing. And like so for a few years there, I don't know if that was why or if I just like. I was a miserable prick for a long time too. It could be that, you know. It could go either way. First, I want to kind of talk about the album that you guys put out last year because it's awesome and the fact that like so we had it in the record club and everyone loved it. Really good reviews we got back from it, but like one of the things I don't know. I don't know if this is like a producing thing or a band chemistry thing, but like you capture every ounce of energy and vibe that you guys give out on the vinyl. And like I feel like that's rare. You don't always get that in the studio album. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know, like, what was the process for you guys writing that album and then getting it like to vibe the way it should be?
Honestly, I mean, I think a lot of that comes from Alex Allenson of The Bridge, who helped us with the record. He recorded it, he mixed it, he produced the thing with us, because during those songs were written, you got to understand during how many musician lineup changes in the band. We went through 2 drummers and 2 guitarists in that time.
Yeah, Brian and I are the only original members.
Okay.
Conception of the band.
So James came in 2 months before we were actually supposed to head into the studio. Like, he was still learning the stuff on the guitar that Jeff Rowe had written before him. And because we had worked on some new stuff with James when he came in. So by the time we got into the studio, we were finding out that him and I were playing things differently that we had to figure out and stuff, just because everything had changed so much between the time that we had actually written probably at least half the tracks on the record until the time we got into the studio.
But James brought so much to that record. But I think what you're saying about capturing the energy of it and everything is, we went in super prepared, really knowing all these songs, and Alex is not a person that. And this could be a bad take, because I know people record all different ways. He doesn't fuck with your music. You get the sounds right, and he gets the good takes, and he does a good mix. There's not a bunch of tweaking happening in post.
And the other thing about Alex too is, if you're playing within the time between you book the studio time and when you're supposed to go in, he will come and see you, so he knows what he's supposed to be working with live.
Oh,
he's always
wow!
At shows, he's always seeing bands. Yeah, he's so dialed into the scene and the different types of subcultures we have within the music scene. Every single record that I've listened to him that he has produced sounds so much different. Dynamically, everything about the record is different, but it's so dialed into that particular band or artist or whoever. It's crazy. He's just so in tune with everything like that. He's great. Yeah, he's amazing to work with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's almost he becomes a member of the band when you're in the studio with him.
That's good. I think that's a talent that I think more people need, right? To be able to do that.
100%.
Yeah, I have a couple of notes on that, on how he kind of captured it. For years, I've recorded with a lot of other people, and I've gotten great mixes and stuff that I've really loved, records that I'm really proud of. But when we got the first mixes back from Alex, I don't know if you knew this, but Alex is a guitarist. Most studio engineers that I've worked with over the course of my life were drummers. And so when we got it back, it was a super guitar heavy mix. And I was like, whoa, this is what it would sound like if I was someone that would mix a record. You know what I mean? So it was super guitar heavy, and I was really psyched about that. And then also I think when you're capturing a punk record, I think that punk and hardcore needs to have an urgency to it. It needs to feel like your blood is kind of pumping, and you need to feel it when you're listening to it. That can't be done if you're dropping tempos. That can't be done if you're doing things like that. You need to have that the speed and honestly the consistency there too. So all our songs are 200 BPM or more, and they're all to the grit. Everything is played to the click that we play.
Yeah. That was the other thing. He wasn't taking and having to edit the drums and slide them around and to quantize them and put them in a grid, because we recorded so tight to the click.
It definitely makes
that
a huge difference.
It feels supernatural. You don't feel like something slid around and every hit is the same hit pasted over and over again on the drums, and that stuff goes a long way to making the record feel authentic and not cobbled together, which again, some people do stuff that way and they still make great records, so I'm not throwing any shade at those folks.
Right.
For us, I would rather go in and do single takes of songs with no editing than go in and cut and paste a whole record together, even 100%. If it means those single takes have mistakes in them,
Mm-hmm. Now, did you guys did you play it live in the studio, or was it no?
No, we tracked drums first and then went into guitar and bass and then vocals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
so I a much different order than you would normally. Normally when you record a record, you go in, you do drums and bass, the basics on the same day, and maybe you do a scratch track for guitars, and then you'll go in and you'll actually dial in the guitars, and you'll use what you have as a bass for the rhythm. But our old drummer had booked the studio time when I had already booked a vacation during that week, so I wasn't able to go in the studio the first weekend that we were there. So I went in afterwards, after James had already started tracking the guitars and did the bass afterwards, which is kind of, I think that's the first time I've ever done it like that.
Yeah, it's really unusual.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. Seemed to work, right?
Well, I've always done it that way. So, yeah, I've always done it that way because I think a lot of times with bass notes and bass tones, you need to work those around the guitar tones, in my opinion.
Oh, see, that's the difference between me. I play my bass like it's a guitar.
Yeah.
So.
Right on. Now, I mean, just in case anyone's listening who hasn't heard you guys yet, I don't see why they haven't, but in case they didn't, you guys are like a very politically driven hardcore band, great sound, lots of energy. I haven't checked you guys out live yet, and that's on me. I will soon, I hope. I will also hope I have the opportunity to. Tell me, like, how did the Promise End become to be? Like, how did you guys decide, like, or when did you guys decide you were going to do this project?
Well, so, originally Jeff Rowe was the guitarist in this band, and so him and our music history goes back, like, all the way to, like, 1997, and playing in bands together. We used to play in this band, Boxing Water, that was, like, regionally pretty well loved, I guess. And so, we've like traveled all over the place together. Like, he's my old band. We toured Europe. He came and did acoustic. Like, we've got a really long history of doing music together. And so it'd been a long time since we'd like played in a hardcore band together. And we were like, we should start this like new hardcore band. And, at the time I recently started becoming friendly with Brian and through Sky Tigers and everything, and I was like, well, we gotta ask Brian to play bass in this band. And at the time, Patrick DeWitt, who's a close friend of mine, we had just come off of being in a band together for like 9 years, like melodic hardcore stuff similar to this. And so he was like all set to go as well. And so it started out as just like a 4-piece, and it was missing a lot of the more melodic guitar stuff that James brings to the band. But yeah, I mean, that's like the core of it. And I think maybe we wrote like, 8 songs or something like that, played a couple of shows, and then things, certain people couldn't participate anymore. They couldn't make the commitment, and sort of whittled back down right after James joined. And then we ended up finding a new drummer, and then we found a new drummer in Ryan from Sky Tigers, Brian's drummer. And so we started doing that, and then Rochelle, who's the guitarist in Sky Tigers, were like, why don't we bring Rochelle in and have a second guitarist? And like, we already have these 3 people playing together. They're like so dialed in. And that worked out really great. And like, that was the lineup that we took out on tour. But then Ryan, he has a baby now, and needs to commit the time to that. And so we actually reached out to this guy Andy Allard from Providence area, and now he's our drummer, and he is such a trooper. He comes up here every week for practice.
Nice.
Makes all the shows. Haven't heard a single complaint. Like, super committed to doing this, and he's a lot younger than everyone else, so he's got like a really nice energy.
Yeah.
Kind of need that to play drums super fast.
Drummer, yeah.
Right on, man. Right on. Yeah, man. Like I said, the album was so good. Paul, thanks again for being part of the record club with it too.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
Funny story. We'll just sidebar real quick. Brian, I met you at the Midway, and I seen you guys perform. That was the first time I'd ever seen you guys or heard you guys. I'm like, wow, this is good. So I grabbed your record from you, and then I was talking. So this was like, I think I had taken the record club over from Mark by then. And I was like, dude, I'm thinking about putting this album in the record club. And he's like, I did. And I was like, oh. So there was a year where I was traveling and I didn't have a real address. So I had to bow out of the record club for a year. And it just so happened that like that record was in there. The funny thing about that is like almost every record in that 12-month span, I found out in the wild and was like, dude, this is so good. And he's like, yeah, that was one that was in the club when you weren't in the club. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I like the album a lot. And first off, did you know the Promise End is like a Magic the Gathering card?
We do know that, yes.
I didn't until last night.
We played a show last night where this kid came up and he was like, I just love that you guys are named after a Magic card. And he ended up like taking a picture of our shirt and putting it up online like Magic the Gathering Hardcore.
So did you know that before he told you that?
We knew that. That's not entirely why the band is named.
No, of course. But I just think it's funny because that's what I discovered that last night when I was like doing a little research here.
Yeah, we're going to send them a cease and desist. We figure Hasbro will back down quickly to
your demands.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And also, like, you guys have a logo, right? Yeah. So tell me about the logo because, like, I was looking at it. I should have went back and seen if it was like Magic the Gathering, like if it looked like.
It's actually, it does kind of look like there's like a die on it or something.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I just have like an obsession with H.P. Lovecraft and this sort of like cosmic horror stuff that
I was gonna say it was very Cthulhu-like, right?
Yes, exactly. So it sort of creeps into things that I like do musically as far as like the visual aesthetics go. And so one of my friends, Bijan Hodabanda, he's an instructor at Virginia Commonwealth University for like graphic design and marketing. He does a lot of our art. And so I had just said to him, like, hey, we're looking for some kind of logo. Think like Cthulhu meets like ancient geometry and numbers. And so he came up with this cube that has this like Sumerian number system on it. And then this sort of tentacle critter coming out the top of it. And with like a, graffiti stencil style artwork. And it just looked really striking. So... that just kind of stuck, Yeah. It was like a T-shirt design, but it quickly, got cemented as the logo.
No, I like it. Yeah, I like it. I think it's like it's good to have something like that. Like, I mean, I've never been in a band or anything like that, so I don't know how it works for that. But like to have like a brand on, and I know like brand is not very like like punk rock or whatever, but like everyone will know like that's the Promised End. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like
and if we're all 70, we can keep selling that image just like the Misfits have been doing the entire time. They don't even make music, do they? They just sell T-shirts.
I don't. Yeah.
Versions of the Misfits out right there right now. No doubt. So the new single, right? The new single. This drops the Monday, I believe, after it drops.
21st, Friday the 21st.
Yeah. So this will come out the following Monday. Let's talk about the single. What's the writing process for the Promised End? Like, do you have a tank full of songs? Like, I call it the treasure chest full of songs that are ready to go.
I have a lot of songs. I have my whole life very highly influenced by Paul's old band. Boxing Water from when I was a kid. I was like one of the young kids that would go see his band in this area. But I have always very naturally written fast melodic hardcore songs. And so I just have I have a bunch in the tank that were kind of ready to go, especially for this new record. A couple of them ended up on the last record. But for the new one I've had a bunch, and it kind of came together really quick. This was actually, was it the first one that we wrote, or was it just the best one, so we recorded?
No, Everything Is War was on the record. That was the first one that really came together.
Yeah, I know, I'm talking about...
for the new crop, this is the fourth song, I think. Third or fourth.
Yeah. So I just wanted... it's funny, because I had this super heavy riff that's it's like a Metallica breakdown, and which is funny because I don't listen to Metallica, but I had this breakdown that I really wanted us to add to a song, and we couldn't fit it in anything. So I wrote this song for that breakdown, and then we ended up not putting it in it. So, yeah, I mean, but the thing is that, while I do come with, a lot of parts to the song ready to go, it's a lot up to Brian and Paul and Rochelle, and now Andy and Ryan, of course, at one point, to help me sort out, how I want it to really go. I come in with a bit of a vision, but I'm very, very moldable at that point. It can change, And like, frankly, like if it didn't change, it'd probably just sound like shit. You know, it needs to have some more character.
Yeah, it needs to grow, right? Everything needs to grow.
Right. For me, like everything is always like, I always like to write in like very simple, like 4/4. Like everything is very simple. I never like cut out one or add one or anything like that, where other musicians might, to make things a little interesting. And that's kind of where Brian kind of comes in, because he's like totally willing to make things weird when I'm not. Or I'm not thinking about it, because it's just not in my music like world or vocabulary, you know.
It's funny because Rochelle and I, you know, in Sky Tigers when we write, it takes us months to write a single song, to get, you know, from start to finish, and that doesn't even include how long it takes me to write vocals. But in this song, we have like 2 new songs every practice. So Rochelle and I, who are used to like having all this time to like work on stuff, we're struggling to keep up with James. But like, so James is like the driving force behind, you know, the skeleton of the songs and the bones of the songs. And then Rochelle and I, you know, she'll like layer on the lead lines so that, you know, because that's really what she does in Sky Tiger. She's really, really technically on the guitar. She writes really, really awesome leads. And so she layers that stuff over what James is doing. And then when I usually come in and I'm like, kind of like the composition type of end, like arranging things and be like, okay, we should do this, you know, instead of just doing this the 4 times, let's add one more just to make it weird. And then, you know, we'll make up for it in the end, you know, and like taking things apart, or, you know, the standard drum beat that you would think of when you hear like a guitar riff in your head and saying like, okay, let's ditch that. And instead let's do something like this and just like slow it down or speed it up, or like just change like the way you're playing the same tempo, you know? And so I think the 3 of us working together like that is really, really, I think this next record, it's really going to show, and it's I'm excited for it.
Nice. Yeah, so let's talk about it's the single's called "The Long Shadow," right? Did I write that down right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, good. All right. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting when I'm writing at like 3 a.m, you know, it's crazy. But and you guys have a video out, or you guys are putting a video out with this one as well. Yep. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, cool. So yeah, tell me about this song.
Well, you know, this song was like musically just written, and then, you know, all this shit that has been going on in Gaza with, you know, this brutal right-wing Israeli government. You know, what are we at, 60,000 civilian deaths now or something?
Conservatively.
Yeah. You know, this has been going on, and so we wrote this song pretty much when all that kicked off, and it's been written, and then, you know, shortly after we recorded it, and then we had like a videographer lined up. We were going to do something a little bigger with it, and then the reason it's coming out now is just it's been delayed for what, like 4 months or something.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out before we went.
Yeah. But you know, it's just a discussion on what's going on over there, and I think a lot of people have been kind of scared to say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a weird space, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, and you know,
it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, I mean, I have huge love for the Jewish people in Israel, but their government is doing monstrous things, and you know, our government's guilty of the same shit. And now, you know, ceasefire be damned, like, when are all the contracts going to start coming in? We see how that place is rebuilt, and these people are permanently displaced. And, you know, that to me is really scary shit. Like, lives lost is awful, but the permanent damage is done in the rebuilding process. And maybe we write a song about that
all the culture,
in the future.
All of the history, all of the lineage that's been there for all of these, like, you know, centuries, and it's just going to go away so that, you know, they can build luxury condos, you know.
I know. Yeah.
Right. And also just commenting a little bit on that, like I can't speak to what Paul had in mind when he wrote the lyrics, but like just reading them and listening to them and like seeing the lyric video that was made, like you just kind of see, like, you know, things are pretty fucked up here in the US still, and we're totally willing to spend money to support bombs and war across the world, but we're not willing to pay for education and healthcare here. And, you know, it just feels like it's, you know, it's just so they're so willing to sign the check, you know, to send the money to Israel, but they're not willing to, you know, help us out.
Yeah. And, you know, I believe that the citizens there should be protected, but protecting one group of citizens while you're smashing other people's houses into rubble is bullshit. And so, you know, at the core, it's an anti-war song, and I can't fucking believe we got to keep writing these fucking songs.
I know. Over how many decades?
I've been doing this since I was fucking 16 years old, 15 years old, and you know, it's just fucking absurd. It's like nobody has any love in their heart for anybody else, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. Well, it's weird because, like, you know, I was like, yeah, you guys are a politically driven like hardcore band, but like at the same time, you're more about humanity than politics. And the fact that we, and you know, I'm guilty of it because I just did it, but like we lump them together. Like I should have led with your humanity, you know what I mean, driven, but you know, but like it's just a bizarre. I don't know, man. It's just
your humanity informs your politics, and if you have no humanity, you have bad politics.
Yeah.
You know, like as far as with punk, you know, it's like you can't fucking separate it, and people that tell you can, I don't think that's fucking very punk. It's like, you know, you get into these arguments with people like, oh yeah, this band's punk. Like, I don't care. Like, let's just say like, I don't know, some fucking pop punk band or something, right? Like, to me, that's a weird term. Are they like an underground band? Yeah, they are. But if there isn't like that humanity or that politics in their music, are they a punk band? Because then you get the argument, well, yeah, punk's just about doing whatever you want. It's like, so is fucking Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not fucking punk. You know, so...
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good argument, actually. Yeah. No, man. Yeah. So the video. You said you were going to do something big. I liked the video. I think the video.
Well, Bijan did the video. We were originally.
I was going to ask you if it was the same person who made the logo and everything. Okay.
Yeah, and so originally we wanted to like have the band in the video and do some like footage of us playing, and so that would require like a videographer to come and work with us. But we still wanted. Originally, the lyrics were still going to be displayed in that video and have some like animation added and stuff, but we had to scale down, you know, the grandeur of it. But it's fucking amazing. He did such a great job, and
really did.
I consider him like a member of this band because he has been like handling the aesthetics of this band since out the gates.
I mean, the album art is incredible. He did all the artwork for the record that came out, all the red, black, white contrast. It's beautiful.
He's like our is it Ray Pettibon who did like all the Black Flag stuff. Like that guy was like a member of the band, right? Like he created the aesthetics of the band. I feel like Bijan has been doing the same thing with us, and I love it. And he has really good politics and humanity. And so like working with him, I feel so good about everything, all of his output, you know? So.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of happy you said that. Like, you treat him as like a member of the band. I just had another podcast like a few hours ago, and that's how he said about like he includes like their sound, like the producer who was on their album with them. You know what I mean? Like, he considers that part of the band because like that's kind of what. You know, it's all a package, everything that, from start to finish, like, you know, so that's cool that you guys, you know, include him in that as well. Yeah. And I think like, as far as the video is concerned, I mean, you know, if the lyrics don't get you, like the animation will, you know, it will get its point across, right? If the lyrics don't, but the lyrics do. So it lends a hand like to each other. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a good tune. It's a very good tune. I enjoyed it. I listened to it again last night a few more times. So I always feel like when people send me stuff and like I'm really good about not sharing it, but I always like feel like if I listen to this again, do you think they're gonna get mad? Like I never like I don't know. I'm always like I'll get something from a PR person, right? And I'll put it on to like listen to it, like the album, and like next thing I know, I listen to it a few times. I'm like, oh no, I hope they don't think like something bad, you know? But yeah, I definitely wanted to go back at it again late last night when I was setting up everything to get a feel, like a better feel for it. You know, and yeah, I mean, shit, even the album from last year, it's so relevant now. And like you were saying, Paul, like like, you know, you've been having to write these songs since you were a kid, and like you still got to write them, you know? It's like, when do we get a break and be able to write something like, you know, a little bit different? But it's needed. It's warranted. It's warranted and it's needed, you know? Like, it's, I don't know. It's just, it's right now. I mean, I think music for me has always been like the best art form to express emotions and like to express protest and to speak out, you know, which last night brought me to this question, and I'm going to ask you guys, like, what is hardcore to you guys? Like, what is it to you? What does like the meaning of it or the whole thing? Like, I mean, we're getting philosophical here.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. Growing up, like I would go to like punk rock shows, and I found punk, and also within that I found some hardcore bands like Minor Threat, Gorilla Biscuit, stuff like that. And at the time, like I didn't really differentiate between punk and hardcore. I kind of thought it was the same. And at the time, I also thought it was cool to like wear a studded belt and like a leather jacket and like spike my hair up and stuff like that. But then when I got a little older, I went to a hardcore show, and I saw Bane play for the first time, and there was none of that. There was no spiky hair or studded belts. They were just like a band of people on stage, and they were speaking about the same super important things on stage that punk was singing about. And, you know, it kind of seemed like they were doing a little bit more with it. But it helped me kind of like identify like, okay, like you can be into this music, you can be into like really extreme, aggressive music, and you don't have to look like it. You don't have to take part in some type of like fashion contest. Not to say that hardcore like doesn't have that, like to some extent it does, but like the real feeling and importance behind hardcore doesn't. And someone I think I heard say this before is that like punk is a lot about talking about things, and hardcore is about doing something about it. So, you know, whether or not that's like having more literature at shows, like zines and stuff for like, you know, different causes, or like doing benefit shows. I mean, if you look back, like Fugazi, I mean, how much of the stuff that they did along their term as a band was benefit shows. Like punk can do really good things, and hardcore is what I think kind of did that, like pushed it towards like doing that stuff. Not to say some negative things didn't come from hardcore and things like that. Of course it did, but that's kind of where I always kind of differentiated in what it means.
Yeah, like from my perspective, I think like what makes, I mean, because hardcore is an offshoot of punk. It's just cutting away all of the like pomp and circumstance from it, I think, and it's just like gets to the kernel of the thing, right? Because I mean, what are they doing? They're both playing fast music. They're both screaming about their grievances to a room full of people that will listen. But, you know, with the hardcore shit, like maybe like all this tone isn't as important, or the stage presence isn't as important, or the fashion around it isn't as important, or any of those things. And it's like, it's just capturing like the rawest kernel of that thing. But again, like, we're in like this, it's like such like a post-genre world for music.
Oh yeah.
What does any of it even fucking mean anymore? You know, it's like I don't know. There's fucking emo rap now.
Right.
Well, I don't know.
We played with two screamo bands last night that were amazing, and it felt like a hardcore show. Like it was like 100% a hardcore show.
Right on.
You know, just post hardcore.
Right,
Yeah.
It's post hardcore.
Yeah.
Brian, what about for you?
Honestly, for me, I guess it's more about delivery. You know, punk is, when I think about punk, and you know, honestly, this doesn't take into consideration, like Paul said, the whole, like, the fact that everything is so combined nowadays.
Everything. Yeah.
Like, to me, when I thought about punk, it's more about the, like, almost like a notice, like a disclosure, like, hey, there's some fucked up shit going on in the world. And then when I think about hardcore, it's more of the anxiety of the shit that's going on in the world. You know, like, punk is speaking to you and spreading awareness, and hardcore is like, okay, now I have this awareness and I'm fucking pissed off, and it's making me really, really anxious about what's going on in the world. At least that's how I always thought of it.
No doubt. Yeah. No, I was thinking about it last night, and I was just like, yeah, man. Because like for me, like music in general, gives us all a voice, and I feel like with hardcore, at least the hardcore stuff that I listen to, right? Because again, there's offshoots and there's different people with different agendas and all that stuff. But so whenever I say it, like I mean it as like from the stuff I listen to. Like I always thought, like I guess I think of it as like it's the voice for the people like who can't get up there and say something. It's the voice for the people. It's the voice for the people to fight back. It's like pushing against the bullies. It's pushing against the government. It's pushing, you know what I mean? Like for me, like that's why, and like punk does a lot of the same. And again, it's all the same. It's all music, right? It's all music. But like
I agree with that, because at hardcore shows you see, like I was saying about like it's more of like an anxious feeling in the music, and you see that the people in the crowd go. I didn't see people like climbing over people to get to the microphone to sing along with the singer to express the same amount of anxiety until I went to a hardcore show. It's not that people weren't singing along at punk shows. It's just like, you know, I saw people in the pit, they were dancing, they were having a good time, jumping around, but there wasn't that urgency to get to the front to really grab the microphone and share that emotion with the singer.
Yeah. I think it can give confidence too. Yeah, I think that's another thing. You know what I mean? It's where some music, like you feel like, all right, it's cool to feel like you listen to music and you're like, oh, I get it. I don't feel as alone anymore. I think hardcore kind of lets people dip into that a little deeper, like you were saying, and come to the forefront and then be able to do those things. So yeah, man. And like, you know, what you guys do is definitely the voice for the people who can't stand up for themselves. And I appreciate your music for that alone, you know.
Appreciate that. Yeah. What you're saying. So thank you.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. So all right, we don't have to dive in. I know. So Paul, I know you own a label, so I don't want to piss off the label. We don't have to dive into about the second album or the next album that's coming. I know you got to wait for that stuff, but it sounds like there is something in the tank. Yeah.
Yeah, we have studio time booked already to record. That's April, I believe. It's
Easter weekend.
Yeah, Easter weekend. We'll be celebrating our deep religious tradition to be in the studio on Easter weekend.
Yeah, we'll be resurrecting some riffs.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We'll be recording also like on either side of that weekend. We'll basically be taking like an early week the week before, working through the weekend and taking some time into the beginning of the next week, and then getting as much done as we can. And you know, maybe there's some like overdub guitar parts that we didn't have time for or something later. But I don't know. Quick.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm done.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know how many of you are in different bands, but I know Brian has other projects. So if any of you guys do other projects too, you can answer this. But like, is it hard to separate the time to do the both, and is it hard to separate the feeling you get from both, or is the feeling the same?
For me, so I actually play in two other bands. I play in Sky Tigers and a band called Crow Feeder, and the differentiation between Sky Tigers and the Promised End and Crow Feeder is huge, because Crow Feeder is more like a sludgy doom heavy metal type of situation, you know, so it's like, you know, a little bit different. Promised End and Sky Tigers is interesting because not only do we have like similarities between the you know, at least the pace of the music, the tempo of the music, whatever, you know, it's both fast, it's urgent, it's anxious, but also Rochelle is also in the band as well, and she plays, me and her are the only, you know, me, her, and Ryan are Sky Tigers. And so, you know, it's having her in Sky Tigers and the Promised End, it's keeping some of that different when we're actively participating in the writing. It can get a little difficult. Like, I think there was one time that we were writing, Rochelle started playing a riff, and James was really into it, and I was like, you know, I'm sorry, I have to interject, because, you know, we already started working on this as a Sky Tigers song. Like, we can't just, you know. So there is a little bit of that, but James has, like, been carrying the torch on all of the music writing. Like, he's been carrying, like, the burden, the lion's share. He's such a creative force that, honestly, like, me and Rochelle, we just, like, add the superficial stuff afterwards, so it hasn't been so much of an issue. But yeah, for me, that's, like, there are similarities. I mean, the difference is that Sky Tigers are more technical. In our music, we just like to write music that we can't play and then figure it out. We want to be weird. We want to be fucked up. We want to do shit that makes people go, that shouldn't sound like that. I shouldn't like that, but it's weird and I like it. And the Promised End's more straightforward, but there is a little bit of a bridge there sometimes. So.
Yeah, so I also play in like a indie emo rock band called Cape Crush.
Oh yeah. Okay, I knew you looked familiar. I've seen you on their social media stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I play in that band with my girlfriend Allie, and then I also play in like I don't even know how to describe it, post-hardcore punk band called
post-hardcore
called Choke Up. We've been in and out for a while, but we're working.
I have one of those records too, by the way. So.
We're working on writing LP number 3 right now. We're gonna go record that soon. But honestly, for me, the writing process for all 3 bands is very different. I get different feelings from all 3. When I play the songs live, though, I do tend to have like a similar kind of cathartic, emotive experience. Which is just like what happens when you play live. Like you just feel it, and you want to feel it. You want to give off that energy the whole time, the best you can. And I'm kind of always searching for that. So like that's why I need 3 bands. But the balance is really just like for me, like is like just making sure I have time to commit to all 3, to like do shows and like do the recordings and do the writing. And I can do that. Like I really, other than that, like I try not to have too many other commitments in my life. Like my social life is like doing music. And pretty much after COVID, and you probably had the same experience, and a lot of people did. It's like, I have a really hard time saying no to like music and like doing the things that like I really loved that made me feel so good. Like when I was younger before COVID happened, and like kind of made me realize how important this stuff was to me. And now at this point, like, I'm not going to say no. Like, if Choke Up wants to keep going and do more stuff, I'm going to say yes. If The Promised End wants to go to Europe again after November, I'm going to say yes. If Cape Crush has to go do something, I'm going to say yes. Like, it's always going to be a yes for music if I can fit it into my life at this point.
100%. I'm the same way. Those 18 months that I couldn't do this were so devastating to just, who I am is like, there were some days that I woke up and I'm like, I just want to play music, so I just go to the studio, turn everything up as loud as I could by myself, because it was better than headphones, and but that was tough. And so, like James said, as soon as we could do this again, I didn't say no. Paul asked me if I wanted to play bass in the Promised Land. Absolutely, sure, 100%. Crowfeeder actually asked me if I wanted to join before the pandemic, so we had started to pick up, but like, everything opened up like in that fall of 2021, kind of going into the winter of 2021. And so it was like everything kicked into high gear at that time. And I was like, that was like the best time of my life. I was getting 3 active bands. Everybody wanted to do stuff. I was like, this is it. It's, that's who I am.
That's awesome.
So important to me is like, my general happiness and like as a human being, it's just, yeah.
What about for you, Paul?
I have been in multiple bands in the past.
Yeah.
Operating at the same time, and I find it pretty stressful to do that. But also, now that I have like the record label thing going on about 5 years now, like I feel like that takes a lot of the space of like another musical project. And kind of like live a little vicariously through the stuff that's coming out on the label too.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like if you don't have another project right now, like with the label, how does that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that like to me like that's the whole point of the label is like someday I'm gonna be hopefully not too old to play music live, but the kind of music I play live is very physically demanding. And so, at some point I might not be able to do that, and I'm going to still want to be plugged into all this and have an outlet for it. And,
right.
At that point, probably an obscene amount of experience to share with other people that if they want any assistance through the label, I'd be willing and able to give to them. So, yeah, for me, that is like the whole point of the label. We only have a handful of releases on it, but it's like, it's fucking expensive to put records for bands.
Right.
And so I'm super happy with everything that's come out on it. And, like our record, when that comes out, that'll be release number 6. And I think everything's been handled pretty well. Like the bands have delivered really good records, and the artwork has been great, and there's been good support, and people like you are taking records for the record club and stuff. Like, I don't know if it would be possible to keep it going without that kind of support either, because that stuff really makes a huge difference when, release day hits and you're looking at how much money you have sunk into something that you're not going to recoup all of it. If you do, that's great, but you can't go into it thinking that.
You got to go into thinking like
the hands of the people that want it.
Yeah.
Like last night we played a show at a new venue in Salem. One of the folks that is the organizers for it is James's partner, Allie. It's called Moonbase One. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, what a great show. Sold out show last night. Wonderful room.
Under the threat
incredible.
of a blizzard, still sold out.
One of the best sounding venues, I think, in the area right now. And it's like, this is not state of the art building with state of the art equipment. This is just super passionate people that like know how to dial shit in and make it work and like organize well. There was a kid at the show that bought a record, and he was like, "So how much is the record?" And I was like, "It's $20." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's $20." He's like, "Wait, is that it?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I want you to listen to the records." Like, people are fucking selling records for $35-$40. Yeah. Records cost the same amount to produce roughly as a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So like if you're selling a t-shirt for $20, where do you get off selling a fucking record for $40? Like, just move them into people's hands. Like that's the whole thing, right? Like, I don't know, maybe if you're going into this with the idea you're going to make money off of it, I mean, I think you're a fool if you're doing that, and also not a genuine participant in the scene.
Right.
So it's like, just, I'm doing the best I can to make that shit happen,
That's awesome. That's kind of why, like, when Mark asked me to take over the record club, I said yes, because, like, I want that person in the middle of like Kentucky to hear the Promised End. You know what I mean? Like that's how things start, right? That's how we get shit started. You know what I mean? So it means it to me. That's more like even when I was a kid, like I was the one that was like, "Hey guys, you got to hear this." Like, you know what I mean? Like I love doing like that badge of honor of discovering something and like sharing it. I'm like, yeah, this is so good. Everyone needs to hear it, and you know what I mean? I love doing that stuff. So
it's a great feeling when you pass a band or a record on to somebody and they come back to you, even if it's not right away, even if it's like 2 months later or a year later, they're like, "Do you remember when you sent me that record? Oh shit, it became like my favorite record. I love it so much,"
Yeah, I'm of an age where like it was only physical media too, and like I'd never get that tape back. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing though that I do miss about it, and like having a label I wish existed still, like being able to do like street level marketing, whereas like, hey, we've got a vinyl record out, but we want people to hear it. I can cheaply press like CDs with like a little paper slip jacket and go out to shows and hand them out to everybody. And people had CD players in their cars. They put it in their CD player on the way home while they're driving. Maybe they chuck it out the window and sign it to Roadside Records, but hopefully they like it, right? And it's super hard to do that now. Like even like all this accessibility with social media, like, hey man, make sure you log on to this website and type in and search my band. Like there's so much more friction there, I think. Unless they stumble across something and it's a very easily clickable link to it or whatever, Spotify's not doing anyone any favors. Like that shit's all payola. It's just like the radio stations.
Just like the radio.
90s and 2000s. Yeah. And going back to like what you're saying, how you're contributing to all this with the record club, what you're doing is actually akin to like what the 60s and 70s like underground like radio movements were doing. The way they were breaking bands is like, here's my specific taste and I'm curating this stuff to share it with you people, and if you like my taste, you're going to trust me moving on. And like a lot of bands were able to get a lot of traction and break through that more like formatless radio stuff that was happening back in the day Clear Channel and like all this. It's like
so what you're Cumulus, Clear Channel, iHeart, like it's and the funny thing is Like they all intermingle. Like they say they don't, but they do, because you can hear Cumulus stuff on iHeartRadio if you wanted to. You know what I mean? Like I remember, so like even in the 90s though, at least you'd get like a program or two on a radio station that was still weird and still underground. You can't even do that anymore. They tell you exactly what to play and when to play it.
Yeah, I have like a story about it. So my old band Landmines, when I was living in Richmond for a decade, we were on, I invited on as guests to promote a release we had coming up on like the big rock radio station. I can't remember like the call letters or any of that stuff now, but we were like, oh, this sounds really cool. And they're like, yeah, and one of the things we want you guys to do is guest DJ. And I was like, wow, that's so fucking exciting, you know? I was like, do we bring our own stuff? They're like, no, you just work from like what we have here. And so at the time, this was like one of these Clear Channel radio stations. And we get in there, and there is not a fucking turntable or CD player in this studio.
Right.
And there's just like a giant screen, and you can literally see the entire day's broadcast laid out, every single track. And so, you know, while one of the songs is playing, the DJ's like, yeah, so, you know, you guys are going to pick the song and announce it or whatever. I was like, yeah, where do we pick it from? He's like, oh, no, you don't. You just read off the next one and pretend. That,
right.
And it's like, I'm not fucking pretending that Buck Cherry is the song I want or whatever fucking...
I will never pretend.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, holy shit. And that's like the early 2000s. It was already so fouled at that point, you know?
All right, we're gonna sidebar again, Paul, when you said Buck Cherry. So I worked at a bar. I worked in bars most of my life, and the only song that I hate as much, maybe more than Don't Stop Believin', is that fucking Buck Cherry song. And I worked at a specific bar where when that song came on the jukebox, we skipped it from the bar. And they would be like, what the fuck? And I'd be like, here's your quarterback.
Yeah.
Despise that song with a passion. But you know, you're right, man. You're right. And like, it sucks. It sucks. Like I'm trying to work on some stuff behind the scenes to like on an internet level to bring like music to people and stuff like that. And it's just so tough. And like in order to do it right, like you have to go through some of these companies, and these companies are the ones that are giving us the playlists. It's like, it's not what we want to do. You know what I mean? So hopefully something breaks at one point, like, and like we can get back to getting weird on the radio and shit like that. Cause I'm not going to lie. Like, I loved the radio, terrestrial radio. Like, I wanted to be in radio so bad, and being in
like 11 o'clock after hours. That's when I found a lot of like my favorite bands today, because that's when the DJs had the freedom to like play local stuff and play stuff like regional that wasn't getting like national radio play and stuff.
Yeah.
It should be this really like freeing, democratizing force for art. Because it is free, right? And and obviously it needs to be funded somehow. Like, nobody can afford to like pay the electricity bill to like push this signal out. But like, it got so fucked up. Like, I mean, you know, you've got like things like NPR or whatever that have figured out some balance like between donations and some,
right,
not technically advertising, but they are reading something out for whatever the dealership in town is.
Brought to you by,
right? And like, so it's obviously you need to do that, but like what it turned into is just so fucked up. But you know, and radio sounds great, especially in a car. It's like the way that they like compressed it and boost the signal and like push it out, and you're picking it up in the car, and when you like dialed it in perfectly clear, everything sounded huge on it, and like you feel good. You drive into your shitty job in the morning, but you got Don't Stop Believin', like, and Sherry to follow it up. But no, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's such a great idea. It's better than like internet streaming in its initial concept. Yeah. You know, because it's all you need is a fucking $5 thrift store radio instead of a computer or a $1,200 cell phone or whatever you're listening to music on now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it comes back. Maybe maybe you start a pirate radio station, like
something. We'll do
Down in like 18 months.
Yeah.
That's when things are really going to pick up.
Exactly.
Something's gonna happen. I'll tease that much. Something is gonna happen. It's just a matter of how I do it and how we can make it happen and make it right. You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing too. Like I want to make it right. Like I don't want to just do the stuff and then deal with consequences later. I want to make sure I do it right. I want to make sure people get exposure. I want to make sure people get, if they need to get paid for it, they get paid. You know what I mean? Like so there's a lot of things in the works, but I digress from that. I might even have to take that little snip out right now. But but what I'm saying is, yeah, you're right. And like who knows though? I don't know. Like I mean, first off, vinyl never left. People think it came back. It got more popularized with like the general public because of COVID and no one being but like it was always here. But like cassettes are making a comeback. And I don't know why. I like them personally. I like them. I think of them as an art piece, especially when you get like the accordion J card. You know what I mean? And you're like looking at all the art and stuff. But like maybe retro shit comes back and radio gets weird again, but I don't. It's gonna take all these channels selling out to God, because God has the most then sports on the radio right now. So once they're all sold out and everything, then maybe we take over AM.
Yeah.
Maybe you know what I mean.
That's the original bandwidth for rock and roll back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I always tell people this too, like. Again, I'm old, Paul, you get it.
Yeah.
We rock and roll wasn't supposed to be so mainstream. It was like underground music and like way back when, like, the blues stuff from way back when, the even Elvis stuff, like that was like punk rock back then. You know what I mean? Like no one wanted that. Like the conservative folks didn't want that music, So who knows what happens? Maybe we make something happen. I don't know. We'll try anyway, So I sorry we went off this little tangent, but I think it's important. I think these conversations are important to have regardless, for sure. All right. So let's where do people find you guys on the internet? Where can they pick up your record? And where can they listen to? Where can they buy the single? Can they listen to it? Where is it going to matter? Where does it matter? Tell us.
So I will say, as far as buying our record, the best place for you to get it online would be soundinvestmentrecords.com. Hold on, my alarm. I don't know what this is for. What's happening? That's the best place, because then the label doesn't have to pay a bunch of like Bandcamp streaming stuff. Like with the Bandcamp, while that's great, it's like you sell records on there, but they sort of keep track of what you're doing, and then when your digital stuff comes through, they kind of pull their revenue share out. So
they do. That's how they do that.
Not always. They always
only if
have
you
like
exceed a certain.
Yeah. But so like the website is the best place, and then like the record locally is in a lot of great shops that we like to promote. It's at Bridge 9 Records in Beverly on Rantoul Street. It's in Salem at Residency Records. I don't know other places that still have copies of it right now, but there was more spread around. But I know I've been in both those shops in the past month, and I know that there's still like a copy or two there. And then obviously you can get it on our Bandcamp. Available there. As far as the single, the only place that's going to be for sale that I can say with 100% will be on Bandcamp. Mm-hmm. Although when you put the track into like the aggregator, it does knock it around to places like Apple Music, where I'm assuming you can purchase the single there. Mm-hmm. But it's mostly just going to be something that's out for streaming for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
Because at some point it's going to make it onto the full length. Whether we like re-record it and do a slightly different version of it or something, we haven't decided yet. But like for now, it was just so topical, and we really wanted to make sure we got it out there. And so not necessarily something that's going to end up on a 7-inch or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, people will be able to stream it everywhere once it goes live. So all the major streaming services that people use for music. So whatever it is that you whichever overlord you give your money to, you can listen to our single.
Right on. And then what about social media? Where can people find you guys?
James.
Yeah, honestly, we do have Facebook and we do have Instagram. The only one we really use is Instagram. The promise dot end. Hang on.
Yeah, it's the .promise.n.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Before I tell you that, it's the only one I really use, honestly. Just because like Facebook drives me nuts now.
Yeah,
the algorithms are really hard.
Oh, algorithms just suck.
Yeah.
Instagram doesn't know what to do with me. I get like drug abuse videos and cat videos and then bans. Like, it's like, what is wrong with this guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like all funny meme stuff, but like, so.
It's the .promise.end for Instagram.
Okay.
And then Facebook, which like I said, I don't really use it, but I'll probably use it for the next European tour because in Europe they still use it.
Oh yeah, is it big? Is Facebook big over there still?
It's still important enough. I don't know. Do you don't really get a handle on there, do you?
No. I can just put a link to it anyway. So
yeah, I can find out.
I think I sent you like all of the actual links with the whole package that had, so you can cut and paste.
Yeah,
probably. All right. Yeah, cool. I'll get it from there.
On our Instagram that has everything.
And then YouTube too, right? You guys are on YouTube as well.
Yeah, so the video that's coming out is going to be on YouTube. The previous lyric video we did is on YouTube. There's also like on the Sound Investment Records YouTube, there's a video for one of the bands that I put their 7-inch out last year, Payphones. They have a video on there. I've seen that. Actually, when I saw you at Faces that night, they played, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, man, hey, thanks for coming on and talking with me. When the new record's ready, when it's ready, Paul. I'm not saying it's happening right now, Paul. Don't yell at me. When it is ready, though, come back. We'll promote it on here.
Absolutely. Hey, can we just plug one show that we have coming up in the near future?
Yes, because this drops. Yeah, this will drop right after the single. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So March 22nd, we're playing at Moonbase 1 in Salem, that new venue we just talked about, with our friends in Deprogrammer Cult, Born Cursed from Amesbury, and American Ethos. That's March 22nd, all ages. Sober Space, Moonbase 1.
Moonbase 1. Cool. Is there a place for tickets for that show right now?
There will be very soon.
All right, yeah. Just shoot it over to me and I'll put it in there too for when this drops. So
the Moonbase 1 website will have it up.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll put a link to the Moonbase 1 website as well. Cool. Sounds good. All right, guys. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said thank you so much for having us on.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry it took so long. We'll make sure you guys come back in a shorter amount of time. How about that?
Hey, let me know if you plan on making it out to that Salem show. We can catch up ahead of time.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank the Promise End for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to all things The Promise End. Thank you to Chris Chavez, Jeff Bousquet, and Aria Rad for being producers of the Struggling Artist Podcast. Check out them on Instagram. You can check out Chris at 716 The Sound, Jeff at JRB Image, and Aria at Coffin Salesman. Mark over at StatelineRecords.com. Thank you so much for being a sponsor of the podcast since the beginning, or at least since our return to Massachusetts. Go see what Mark has on the label, StatelineRecords.com. To my guys in the band Losers Circle, thank you so much for letting us use the Great Illusion of Time off of your album Took Long Enough for the theme song to the podcast. One day I will be able to say the name of the song without stuttering. Hey, everybody over at Patreon helping us out over there. Thank you so much. Your contributions help us with the podcast, as far as getting new equipment or putting on events. I know if you're a patron right now, I leaked on one of the Struggling Artists radio episodes what 2024 contributions are going to. I'm very excited, and as we get closer to that, we will announce it here on the flagship show for the whole public to hear. If you want to see what's going on, head over to patreon.com/podcast TSA. Our tiers are inexpensive. And there's new tiers coming. There's going to be a kind of an expensive one coming too. And it will explain why. And once I put it up there, I'll explain it here too. But yeah, patreon.com/podcast TSA. Hey, you got something to say? Text us, 774-570-1552. We will not text you back, I promise. You could also leave a voicemail at the same number, 774-570-1552. That is the Struggling Artist Hotline. If you got a gripe, if you got a compliment, if you got something to ask, I don't know, hit us up over there. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but the Underground Noise has returned, hosted by Arya Rad himself. If you need to get in touch with Arya, if you have news about a tour or a single or an album or something going on in your band's world, hit him up, Arya at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, hit me up, Trev at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. All right, it's that time to get out of here. We have a song to play from The Promise End. This is their brand new single called A Long Shadow. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.